From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 6, a rally against the Iranian regime right here in Union Square.
What they do want is a firm policy against the Ayatollahs.
What Iranian Americans here in the Bay Area are saying about the conflict in the Middle East. Plus, a crisis at local food banks.
Our federal government is creating a crisis.
How the president's big, beautiful bill impacts hunger here at home. Later, Pride Weekend kicks off in San Francisco.
And this is Ollie. She's a very proud pup.
How a community is rising up against pressure from the White House. Live from the CBS studios in San Francisco, I'm Andrea Nakano. Brian Hackney has the night off. We begin in San Francisco, where Iranian Americans gathered at Union Square today to call for an end to the Ayatollah's reign. It comes just days after Iran's supreme leader reappeared this week to warn the United States against further attacks. John Ramos spoke with demonstrators downtown today on why a regime change is long overdue.
More than 40 years ago, the people rose up and kicked out the Shah of Iran, welcoming in the Islamic Republic. Now, more than anyone, they understand the old saying, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Chaotic celebrations erupted in Tehran when the news broke the Shah had gone.
The Shah and his brutal secret police, Savak, were hated by the people, so the demonstrators were thrilled when they heard the Ayatollah Khomeini was coming back from exile to save the country. Little did they suspect what would happen just 2 months later. The Ayatollahs imposed strict Islamic law and simply exchanged Savak for the dreaded Revolutionary Guard.
We couldn't believe it. They were not just bad, they were so bad. They were really brutally bad. So we couldn't believe it. We thought that we can change the regime by demonstrating peacefully, tell them that what to do, that we don't like this, you're doing this. But none of those things happened. Every single time that we demonstrated outside, they opened fire on us.
They traded one dictatorship for another. In the last few years, more than 120,000 people have been killed fighting for freedom, and on this day, they were recognized with a photo display in San Francisco's Union Square. Hamid Azimi fled Iran when he saw the revolution turn bad, and he doesn't believe that the mullahs will soften their stance in the face of popular resistance.
They are not going to budge in with millions of people coming to the street. They have shown it in the previous uprising that they will just massacre people and push them go back into their houses. The way that this regime will be toppled is by the Iranian people exercising their right to pick up arms and topple this regime with brute force.
He believes the resistance is close to a tipping point in an effort to topple the Islamic regime and install a non-religious, non-nuclear, democratic republic, honoring civil rights for everyone, especially women. And Azimi says they don't want foreign help doing it.
The people of Iran don't want any money, they don't want any arms. What they do want is a firm policy against the Ayatollahs, and that firm policy is formulated in recognizing the Iranian resistance movement.
In fact, all they really want from the US and Europe is to stay out of it.
The problem that we had as a nation was that the only organized entity in Iran were the mosques that were controlled by the Ayatollahs. That shows that people have learned the lesson that in order to topple an organized dictator, they need to be organized too.
And the Iranian people have learned another hard lesson as well, that it's not enough just to fight against something, you also have to know what you're fighting for.
This comes after a Democratic proposal to limit the president's war powers was voted down yesterday in the Senate. Sponsored by Senator Tim Kaine, the measure would have required the president to get congressional approval before any further strikes on Iran. Staying in Washington, the president's big, beautiful bill continues to face an uncertain future. CBS News' Willie James Inman has the latest.
For weeks, President Trump said he wanted his big, beautiful budget bill passed by the 4th of July.
I think it was a good deadline. I think it's a good goal. If not a deadline, it's certainly a good goal, and it's certainly gotten us to work.
GOP senators met behind closed doors Saturday afternoon as they raced to pass the sweeping package. There is no vote scheduled yet, as it remains unclear if the Republican-controlled Senate has the simple majority needed to move forward on it.
This bill has about $400 to $500 billion worth of new spending. And why would you put forward a bill that has $500 billion worth of new spending if your goal was to fix the deficit?
Among those concerned by the bill, Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky.
The deficit this year is going to be about $2.2 trillion. My prediction is with all this new spending and with some new tax cuts that the deficit is going to be bigger next year.
The legislation extends tax cuts from President Trump's first term, removes taxes on tips and overtime, and increases spending for defense and border security. Opponents of the bill argue it would make significant cuts to Medicaid and food stamp programs.
It's a disaster because it betrays Republicans' own promises not to cut Medicaid, not to cut SNAP.
What they're trying to do to cut back on these health care programs and health insurance for 16 million Americans to pay for tax breaks for wealthy people is just not a winning combination.
The president insists his bill will deliver relief to hardworking Americans.
But we'll deliver a record tax cut, a record spending cut, a record investment in border security.
The soonest the Senate is expected to vote on the bill is Sunday.
Now, part of the bill blowback involves the impact it could have on benefits to fight hunger. Max Darrow explains.
Volunteers and employees at Bay Area food banks working in overdrive as they continue to serve a historic level of need. And leaders of several food banks in the region are concerned that need will skyrocket if a provision of President Trump's big, beautiful bill isn't taken out.
The cuts that are on the table in Congress are the greatest rollback of food assistance that we have seen in our modern U.S. history.
The proposed bill would slash billions of dollars in federal funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and shift much of the financial responsibility to individual states. Congressional Republicans who support the cuts say this will help eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse within SNAP. But in a letter addressed to lawmakers, 23 governors warned this will result in states dramatically reducing access to critical food assistance for those who need it the most. The heads of Bay Area food banks echoed that sentiment.
These cuts are being rushed through. They're being jammed through. This is not the usual order of business. This is happening swiftly, and it is cruel. Our federal government is creating a crisis. It will mean that in our community, there is clear and present danger for 175,000 households in this Bay Area to lose SNAP benefits. 1 in 4 children in California rely on SNAP. SNAP is not just a safety net, it is a foundation for stability and, most importantly, dignity.
Aside from children, the leaders of the food banks say SNAP helps feed seniors on fixed incomes, people with disabilities, and families struggling to get by.
SNAP is the single most effective anti-poverty tool that we have in this country, and it works.
And people who lose access to SNAP benefits likely would turn to food banks, currently trying to do more with less.
All of our elected officials right now have the opportunity to speak out and to raise awareness and prevent these harmful cuts from impacting the most vulnerable in our community.
The bill is not a done deal just yet, but President Trump continues to push GOP lawmakers to have it on his desk by Independence Day.
Okay, it got kind of hot today. For some of our warmer locations, come over to the map for today's daytime highs with me. San Francisco is in the upper 60s. That wasn't one of them, but just go 20 miles inland and look at Concord's number. 97 today for the daytime high. Coming in just 3 degrees shy of 100 out here. And when you follow that number from the 97 that you've got and walk that down to the Tri-Valley, you're pretty close. Livermore's pretty close there. It was better in the Santa Clara Valley, but you were still 2 degrees shy of 90 in San Jose today. These numbers are coming down tomorrow. Let me show you what's going to happen. We'll take a look at the clouds that are just sitting right off the coast, and there's a beautiful showing of the marine layer out here now. So if we match the daytime highs with the last few hours of the marine layer, which has now just kind of been beaten back to the Golden Gate. In fact, if you take a look up here, you can see what it looks like from the vantage point of Nob Hill as it was streaming in over the city and Alcatraz. There's a beautiful like runway of clouds. That is about to fill back in for the entire bay. So let me just leave you with that for now. Here's how your Sunday will be different. The marine layer will fill in more of the bay tomorrow. Watch it contour pretty much the entire bay here. You can see it's even got the South Bay down there. I don't think it necessarily gets into the Tri-Valley tomorrow, but it will early next week. We're going to see more of this each morning now over the next few days. And these temperatures are going to come down. It's not like a crazy drop in numbers, but we're definitely going to start pulling you back from the hundreds for those inland valleys starting tomorrow. I'll show you what those look like. We'll go into the details for your part of the bay. Daytime highs for tomorrow and the rest of the 70 coming up in a bit. Andrea, over to you.
Well, San Francisco Pride is front and center this weekend ahead of tomorrow's parade as the Bay Area celebrates its LGBTQ community. People gathered earlier today at Dolores Park ahead of tonight's festivities.
Well, it's essential for Dyke visibility to be out and proud and to show our force and our activism and our art and our culture.
And our Amanda Harry is live on the ground for us in San Francisco for the annual Dyke March. Amanda, what's going on right now around you?
Right now, all of those people are out marching. They are supposed to be coming up this street behind me any second now. This is Dolores and 19th. We expect them to come up here. But over on the side in Dolores Park, we have a ton of people hanging out here just waiting to greet the Dyke March. An organized Dyke March since pre-pandemic, but now it's back in full force. A fundraiser campaign began in early March. They had a goal of $100,000, a figure organizers weren't sure they would be possible. And this week, they're nearly at 70% of that target amount. This year's event is not relying on grants and has been funded by donations from hundreds of individuals. And we have a lot of those individuals doing that march right now. Again, they are coming up this street. They should be here any minute. We're going to have a full story on this at 11.
All right, Amanda, thank you. We've had a little bit of connection problems out there, and I hope you were able to catch our report. But we had the Dyke March today, the Trans March yesterday that had about 20,000 people out there. So a lot of events leading up to the big parade coming up tomorrow in San Francisco. And be sure to watch our Pride special tomorrow on KPIX Plus. We'll highlight members of the LGBTQ community making a difference here in the Bay Area. That's Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, coming up, the latest on the scandal at San Francisco's Parks Alliance details on a plan for Crane Cove Park. Stay with us.
That is the view of the marine layer. It was streaming in over North Beach there. And the most important part of this forecast is the fact that the marine layer is going to become a bigger part of our lives over the next few days. We're going to start to get back into much more typical June gloom for these last few days of June anyway. So I want to walk you through what that'll look like and what causes that. Why does it all of a sudden just come back in a bigger way for like 3 or 4 days and then it goes away again? Look what it's doing right now. Here, this is live updated high-resolution satellite. That's what the clouds are doing. You see the marine layer. Look at that little ribbon right there that's just streaming in through the Golden Gate. That's what we were just looking at. In fact, that's what it looks like on satellite. Here's an eyewitness account of it. That's what it looks like from the camera. This is one of those classic days where you kind of get that carpet that streams in over Alcatraz and then goes out over towards like the East Bay. That is going to grow overnight and become much more widespread. Let's come back to the map. I'll show you what I mean by that. We'll take the forecast ahead. Marine layer builds in this evening. And unlike the last few days, when we get to like 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, here's your Sunday, we filled in pretty much the entire bay. Now, we haven't filled in the whole Bay Area because I don't think this is going to get over towards the Tri-Valley for tomorrow morning. Likely you'll wake up with clear skies, but look at the North Bay, you'll get it. Santa Clara Valley, you'll get it. And then it'll melt back as we get into the afternoon. So if you really want to see what the rest of Sunday looks like, it's going to be just fine. It's going to be beautiful. In fact, after a great start, by the time we get to noon, it's right back pretty much where it is now. So don't get me wrong, Sunday is going to be a beautiful day in terms of sunshine. It's just going to start out grayer than it was today. And as a result, we're going to get a little bit of a cool down. I'll show you the cool down in 1 second. First, what's going on with the marine layer now and why is this happening? Tomorrow is just the start, by the way, because much of next week, it's going to become even more widespread. It's going to build farther inland, and it'll be a bigger factor for at least the first 2 or 3 days of next week. What's driving this? Why does it do it? You take a look out off the coast and you don't really see a whole lot of anything on the satellite that would tell you. And even when you try to visualize the atmosphere in a number of different ways, using the satellite, you still don't really see it. So let me show you what's doing it. We come down here, and this dry patch right here on the water vapor is a developing little area of low pressure. See that little low that just spun itself up out of nowhere from today into Tuesday? When you get an area of low pressure like that, and that's what the red's showing you on here, this is not a storm. We're just visualizing where the vorticity is, or the rotation, that counterclockwise spin. That counterclockwise spin lifts the marine layer up. It deepens it. And when it does that, now it can throw it much farther inland. That's going to be with us Monday, Tuesday. Let's play it through. Still be here Wednesday, and then it'll leave. So for the next couple of days, we're going to see the marine layer deepen and get thrown farther inland. Let's start at the beginning. Here's the first of those several days. This is Sunday. What are your daytime highs going to be like? A little bit cooler than today. So what we were looking at the top of the newscast, Concord went to 97 today. Still going to be hot there tomorrow, but you're going to go to the low 90s instead of the upper 90s. And when you look at the rest of these numbers, they're all a little bit better. And when we look at the 7-day forecast, after we do this and we manage to bring these numbers down to this location, we're just going to kind of stay there for a little while. So let's bring in the 7-day. I'll show you what that looks like first for our inland microclimate. You see the temperatures on here, more like mid-80s, even some low 80s for the rest of the week. This is the inland microclimate, by the way. And there's even a more notable cool down by next weekend, more overdrive. By then, we'll be calling this probably no sky July as we get into early July. That's kind of the fun that we have with this. All right, here's the 7-day forecast for the Bay. You'll see your numbers, but you'll also see the marine layer, a bigger factor within each one of those terrariums for the next few days.
The Valkyries have sold out Valhalla in each of their first 9 home games in this inaugural season. With so much enthusiasm surrounding the team, 2 fans decided to start a podcast to give a voice to the growing fan base. Kelsey Thorett has more.
Valkyries, Valkyries. This is Raina and Vanessa. This is Valkyries Say Less.
Raina Mast and Vanessa Hutchinson-Zekkeli are the voices behind a new podcast dedicated to all things Valkyries.
Tell us about Kayla and her double-double. Okay, so her history of double-doubles. History of double-doubles. She averaged a double-double in college.
The 2 basketball-obsessed friends say the idea came to them after seeing just how much hype was surrounding the team.
Basically, the first one, it was so fun. Yeah. We did the first one, and I was like, we're trying this out. And it was such good chemistry, and we're like, oh, our voices sound really different, so like people will be able to like hear who's who.
And with that, Valkyries Say Less was born. Each episode is an upbeat half-hour-ish long chat where the 2 dive deep into the players' backgrounds and their performances on the court.
It feels like when you're little and collected like baseball or basketball cards, it's like the back of the card, but we're doing it with audio, and we're just like, yeah, what do you relate to? What do I relate to? Yeah.
It also doesn't hurt that both Raina and Vanessa are teachers, bringing the skills and games they use in the classroom to their listeners.
What's our game today? Our game today is a classic coming straight out of my classroom. It's called Taboo.
It's a show the 2 hope will bring some joy as well as some knowledge and interest in the game and the team to their audience. Their goal, to get even casual Valkyries fans more interested and invested in the team, 1 episode at a time.
I hope they go and they go to the games and they can watch the games without looking at their phones, and they can, learn the nicknames, learn what a double-double is, learn that they're welcome there even if they haven't played basketball in 20 years. Let's carry that gushing over, amazing energy and love and translate it into something where we can just help grow the community. Yeah.
Coming up, how yesterday's Supreme Court ruling could reshape legal challenges to Trump's policies.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Welcome back. On the last day of the Supreme Court's term, justices issued a ruling that could reshape how presidential policies are challenged in court. The ruling stems from President Trump's executive order targeting birthright citizenship. Yesterday's decision was not about the policy itself. Instead, the justices ruled 6-3 that federal judges overstepped their authority when they issued nationwide injunctions blocking the president's order universally. San Francisco City Attorney David Chu spoke out about the local impact.
It emphasizes how important it is for cities like San Francisco and states like California to defend our rights against this administration, to be in the fight. Because we can no longer expect to benefit from other parties when they win court challenges.
The Supreme Court ruling does leave the door open for class action lawsuits as a way to broadly challenge federal policy. Now, several groups have already filed new class action suits in hopes of blocking the birthright citizenship order. And joining me now to talk more about the ruling is Jeremy Fogel. He is the executive director of the Berkeley Judicial Institute. Thank you for joining us, Jeremy. So I want to ask you, the Supreme Court's ruling wasn't about the merits of the birthright citizenship policy. Can you explain to us what this means for the federal judges and how it might disrupt the checks and balances between the judicial and executive branches?
Sure. It definitely gives the federal courts less room to weigh in on national policies. The law prior to the ruling yesterday was interpreted to mean that judges could issue rulings that had nationwide impact, even if not everybody in the country was before the court. If a party made a claim that would have broad application, then the judges believed that they had the power to issue orders nationwide to prevent anyone else from suffering a similar harm. And what the Supreme Court said was you have to have parties before the court who have themselves demonstrated the particular injury involved and who would be bound by the ruling. So that means it could be an individual, it could be a class, it could be, as City Attorney Chu said, it could be a city, it could be a state, but you have to have an actual specific party seeking the injunction. And that is a significant change from the law before yesterday's ruling.
So then, for example, what happens next in the birthright citizenship case?
Well, it's going to be a very, very active 30 days. One of the more significant things, I think, about the Supreme Court's ruling is that they stayed their own order for 30 days. And the clear anticipation is that during that 30 days, the courts that have had these challenges, the ones that heard the cases that came up to the Supreme Court, and probably other courts as well, are going to be dealing with suits brought by states, suits brought by cities, class actions, as you said. If you get into the weeds and the decisions, they actually, the opinions, they actually talk about they're expecting there to be class actions, and some of the classes are going to try to certify nationwide classes. So there's going to be a lot of activity in the next 30 days. I would expect that there will be some very broad injunctions issued because the view of most judges is that the birthright citizenship issue itself is fairly straightforward, that there's not much real dispute about it. And then that's going to bubble up to the Supreme Court. And of course, they've adjourned for the summer, but they have this thing called the shadow docket or the emergency docket. And there will be, I think, emergency applications to the Supreme Court in relatively short order to evaluate what the courts do in the next 30 days.
So we've heard about these nationwide class action lawsuits that have already been filed and probably more will be filed. What are some of the hurdles or challenges with those suits?
Well, they're going to have a plaintiff or plaintiffs who are parties at the Supreme Court under its interpretation of the law have standing. So they have to be, it has to be an individual who's being denied a particular right, or it could be a class of people. You know, there's some of these some of these cases involve states that have said that if you eliminate birthright citizenship, that it's going to affect the way the states give out health care and do provide other benefits to people. So the states have standing. And one of the things the court said is that the judges who are doing those cases need to analyze whether their orders are sufficiently tailored to match the standing that the states have. And there's going to be individuals who are going to say, well, what's happening to me is happening to lots of other people, so I am a class representative. I should be a class representative for other people who could have their presumed citizenship under the Birthright Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, have that taken away. So I think we'll see a lot of, as I said, a lot of legal activity. There will be new pleadings filed. There will be new rulings by the lower courts. And if the government's unhappy with them, they're going to take those rulings to the higher courts, probably the Supreme Court on the emergency docket. So I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think we really know yet how this is all going to play out, but it certainly is a different legal landscape than we had before. And I want to say that, you know, people on both sides of the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans, had problems with the existing standard on universal injunctions, because if they were out of power, they used them, and if they were in power, they didn't like it when the other side did. And both sides went and found their favorite judges who would issue injunctions. And I think there was a consensus that we needed to have something different from what we had. But I think what the court did is pretty restrictive, and it's going to be interesting to see how the lower courts deal with those restrictions. And I think we're going to learn a lot over the next month.
All right. Well, it just seems like things are evolving all the time. Thank you so much, Jeremy Fogel, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Right. He's the executive director of the Berkeley Judicial Institute. Well, a major shift in trade relations. President Donald Trump says he's done negotiating with Canada and will soon announce new tariffs on America's closest trading partner. It comes after Canada announced a digital services tax that will impact American tech companies. Trump called it a, quote, direct and blatant attack on the U.S. Well, coming up, powered by AI and created by Bay Area students, a look at a new app to help federal workers impacted by DOGE cuts. Next.
Now you can get your KPIX news, weather, and live stream all in one place on the CBS News app. Download it free today.
Mass federal layoffs earlier this year forced students at San Jose State University to step up. Now they believe they found a way to help those impacted find work. Kevin Coe shows us how their idea came to life.
It all started as a group project at San Jose State University, inspired by the headlines.
At the time of February, I think around 6,000 people were laid off from federal jobs in 2 weeks.
That headline led to a breakthrough for Siam, Khan, Dat, and Rashik, 4 software engineering students who were challenged by a professor to create an app with a specific quality.
We shift the thinking from the engineer to something like, I want to make something that actually impacts the real world.
Shifting the thinking led to this, FedBridge, an app and website for federal workers looking for work.
This is the resume uploader section. And we have 2 modes in this.
Users upload a resume and get job recommendations based on skills and openings.
Based on my profile. So why am I a good fit? Because I have good cloud experience, programming efficiency, and I have a relevant software engineering background. So this is like, I guess the most important part is we're actually recommending you certifications to take and what classes you can take to gear you towards passing those exams for that certification.
After applying, FedBridge also offers an interview prep service powered by AI, which will later be developed into video.
This project was deeply influenced by Mr. Rakesh Ranjan, who is the professor.
I tell my students, demo or die. It's my motto. You have an idea, you create something, you demo it, you validate your proof of concept, and that's how you learn.
Adjunct professor Rakesh Ranjan is usually at IBM, where he's a software engineering director. His family lineage includes 15 teachers, so it was natural for the San Jose State graduate to teach fellow Spartans not just industry knowledge, but personal growth.
Some of these students might go work for large enterprises, some of them can start their own business. Whatever they do, they will have empathy and a willingness to try to solve real life problems. They didn't want to build another Indeed.com. They wanted to match to a job that these people will succeed, taking their years of experience in a specific area.
Decades-long federal workers who were unexpectedly laid off may not even realize the applicable skills they already have for the private sector. But thanks to 4 San Jose State students who thought outside their own boxes, bridging the gap makes more sense than ever.
In Santa Rosa, high school students laced up their sneakers today to raise awareness on the dangers of fentanyl, hosting a 5K at Haworth Park following the loss of a fellow classmate who overdosed on fentanyl back in February.
So with these high schoolers, just like a sense of empowerment, like they put something together, they executed it, and they raised some money. So I was very happy to see that happen.
These kids are reaching out and going, we want to do something to bring awareness to our community and keep this from happening.
Funds from the race will be donated to the nonprofit Song for Charlie, which provides accessible fentanyl education to parents and students. Well, coming up, a San Francisco park is finally getting a playground. The controversy at Crane Cove Park is coming up.
And we almost did it today. Part of the bay almost got to 100. Look inland. Concord 97. Livermore getting close. That's it. We're not going any closer than that. Tomorrow we're going to start cooling your numbers down. And we're going to change the pattern. Marine layer is going to wake up and start coming back in and waking us up to gray skies for a while. I'll show you what the last little gash of June gloom is about to look like. Forecast coming up next.
An update to a story we first brought you last month. There's a good news here for a popular park that got caught up in a major financial mismanagement scandal involving a prominent San Francisco nonprofit. Last month, young families living near Crane Cove Park had given up hope on promised new playgrounds and a dog park after learning that donated money had been misspent. As Dahlin reports, the Port of San Francisco is now saying that they're going to keep their promise to build the park.
A new fence, new groundwork, and a projected completion date, all signs that construction is finally underway. For neighbors, it's a big surprise. Against all odds, the long-promised playgrounds are finally being built. Crane Cove Park, a hotspot for kids, dogs, and sunbathers.
Do you want to make a racetrack?
For neighbor RJ Andrews, the park is about to get even better for his young family. The Port of San Francisco has just begun construction on 2 new playgrounds, one for toddlers and another for older kids.
For our family, you know, our youngest will be on this side and Alice will probably be...
It's a day he thought would never come. They've waited 5 years, even before his 4-year-old son, Atlas, was born.
Initially, it was a reaction of suspicion because it's taken so long to develop. We're concerned that the fences would go up and nothing would happen.
Soon after the Bayfront Park opened in 2020, the Port unveiled plans for children's play areas and a dog park. But last month, the public learned most of the donated money meant for the project was gone.
I'm not sure what happened. It could be criminal, it could not be criminal. I'm just looking forward to getting to the bottom of it.
Nicola Miner and her family's Baker Street Foundation donated $3 million to the San Francisco Parks Alliance to fund the play areas. The nonprofit partners with the city and distributes private money for open space projects. The Parks Alliance sent nearly $1 million to the Port, but admitted last month it spent the remaining money on its own operating expenses. The scandal forced the powerful nonprofit to shut down. Both the city attorney and district attorney have launched investigations. The Port of San Francisco says the project's cost has since dropped to around $2.5 million, and it has found the funds in its budget to cover the shortfall and move forward.
I think it's fantastic. I actually can't I can't believe it. It's amazing that the port still held strong to its mission.
The emotion was one of delight, surprise, excitement.
RJ's not alone. Neighbors are excited about the announcement.
The fact that there's some more things that are geared towards little ones like Mason is just extremely exciting to us, and I think we'll be here a lot more often because of it.
It'll be nice to have a contained area where you can kind of let them off leash and just do their thing without having to really, whoa, we got other dogs coming in. See, a lot of dogs in this area.
The timing couldn't be better for RJ and his wife. They just welcomed the baby girl.
She'll be, maybe one of the first and youngest, patrons of the new playground. So sometimes, dreams do come true.
The port hopes to complete the dog park and the playgrounds by next February, but maybe even sooner, by the end of this year.
Okay, in the weather. We came close today to do something that we haven't done yet all June. You know, the last days of May, we were hitting 100-degree days in some of those notable inland communities. Concord, Livermore, you guys were doing it. May 31st, like 101. Then June started, and we never even came close. Today was about as close as we got. Look at the number for Concord. By the way, here's San Francisco today, 67. It is 20 miles as the crow flies to get back here to Concord, where it was a full 30 degrees warmer today. Livermore, not quite that warm, but close. And you can see what the numbers were like in the Santa Clara Valley. So, I mean, this was dangerously close to getting to 100, 3 degrees shy. We're not going there, and we're going to start cooling down over the next few days. But interestingly, if you took all the daytime highs that Concord has had so far for the summer, averaged them out, the average daytime high you have experienced there all June is 82. I know you've had days notably warmer than that, like today, but you've also had days that were notably cooler, a lot of them. Not too far into the 70s, but plenty of them. And the average daytime high for the whole month, it's like 82. That's what your average would be at the start of the month. So not bad. This has really turned out to be quite a nice, uneventful June in that way. All right, so let's see how we're going to keep the numbers and bring them down from there. So we'll look out to the marine layer, which is sitting off the coast right now. This is the latest snapshot image, and you can see what's happening. We looked at this a moment ago. There's that classic little ribbon of marine layer right there, coming in through the Golden Gate, streaming across the bay and trying to get over towards Oakland. And we have been keeping an eye on it as well from our cameras. That's what it looks like as it's starting to stream in from Sutro Tower. And of course, that's the view of that little ribbon going in across Alcatraz and in the bay. All right, here's what it's going to do tonight. Watch the fog build in. So tomorrow, here's what is different. We didn't really film much of the bay today, or yesterday for that matter. Most of us woke up to sunshine. Tomorrow, most of us in the interior of the bay will wake up to gray skies. So the marine layer is starting to come farther inland, and it's starting to give us a bigger influence on the way the afternoon feels. Even if the clouds are not going to last long, it can go as far inland as it wants by 6 a.m., but by 11 in the morning, it will have melted all the way back to right where it is now, which means more sunshine again than anything else for the overwhelming majority of us tomorrow, except west side of the city, coastline there down San Mateo County, coastline through Marin, all the way up to the Sonoma coast. Plan on a great beach day if you're going to the beach on Sunday. But everybody else will have sunshine. And let's get those daytime highs on there. So if we were looking at the daytime highs a moment ago for where you were today, these are today's numbers. Concord, we're not doing 97 tomorrow. Now you're down into the low 90s. It's still going to be hot. Don't get me wrong. You're still going to be above that average of 82 you've been doing all month, but at least you're moving away from the hundreds. You're going in the right direction. You see the numbers down in the South Bay as well. And Santa Rosa, you're not going to budge much. Your numbers will stay in the low 90s. From there, we get into the 7-day forecast, and let's see what that looks like. We'll start out by taking a look at the inland microclimate first. And as we do that, the numbers are not really going to change a whole lot from here. Pretty much staying put. But we'll get a little cooler by the end of the week. So by Friday, now look at that dip there. I mean, this is getting us now as we approach early July. Temperatures are going to go down to the 70s, inland again. And when we look at the numbers, so it's a nice little cool down heading our way for the end of the week and into next weekend. And it will likely be a cool 4th of July from that standpoint. Probably also quite marine layering. This will likely be one of those holidays where it comes down to the wire, but whether we're going to be able to see fireworks or not. Start thinking we're likely going to have clouds in the way this year, but more on that as we get closer to it. Andrea, back over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Darren. Up next, San Jose Gym is embracing Mexican culture by teaching the art of lucha libre. Details are up next. Well, inside an East San Jose gym, you'll find masked heroes owning their skills. They're learning the art of lucha libre, a form of wrestling that originates in Mexico. Our Len Ramirez takes us to the mat and introduces us to the performers who are taking their show global.
It is a world of masks, mystery, and muscle. Lucha Libre, the high-flying Mexican wrestling tradition, is gaining ground far beyond the ring, and this San Jose gym is leading the charge. It's part sport, part theater, and 100% action. And it's here where ordinary people are transformed into Lucha Libre legends, like this masked man.
My name is El Cucuy. Say your prayers, because I'm coming to get you.
And then there's Charisma, one of a growing number of female stars. She's a fierce fighter who leads a double life. By day, she nurtures babies as a preschool teacher, but at night, she takes on the bad guys in the ring. And a superhero she is. Charisma recently won this championship belt.
I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with the style, the astonishment, the acrobatics, and just the overall energy, and the fact that it brings a new light to a completely different culture.
But it's also a life of hard knocks. There's a daily dose of bumps and bruises, and as Charisma can attest, sometimes more serious injuries. But she keeps coming back for more.
It's rough. It can be rough. I have had countless injuries, and because it's an impact sport, it really is. And even though it's a spectacle, it's a story, it's a show, it's high impact, and it's athletic, and it's rough on the body. But nothing keeps me away, apparently.
This is a warm-up. This could not be that difficult.
At the heart of it all is Gabriel Ramirez, the owner of Pro Wrestling Revolution and a man on a mission, not just to teach wrestling moves, but to grow Lucha Libre into a global phenomenon.
It's obvious that Lucha Libre has come into its own, and it's a big part of what professional wrestling is now in the United States.
Recently, the gym's top talent took their passion across the globe, performing in front of packed crowds in Dubai, bringing the color and chaos of Lucha Libre to a brand new audience.
Taking our cultural phenomenon to them was an experience I'll never forget, because they see the masks, they see the capes, they see it, and for them it's a superhero come to life. And in the end, when you have little kids looking at you as that superhero, there's no better feeling.
With athletes like Charisma and El Cucuy and universal themes of good versus evil, Gabriel's gym is turning dreams into drop kicks and taking Lucha Libre from a local ring to the world stage.
I was waiting to see if Len Ramirez was going to do some reporter involvement,
right.
But I'm glad he didn't do any of that. That looks kind of scary.
Nope, he's always too good to put himself in the story. And on that one, I'm sure he's glad.
He's glad he did. Would you try something like that?
The choreography actually looked really cool.
Yeah.
The amount of work that goes into that, I'd break something.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely break something. Well, thank you for watching. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.